Recording. There we go. Okay.
And first item is to approve our AI summary minutes from the 29th. We have a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion to approve
I'll second.
the AI summary.
All in favor? Any opposed? Great. Next up is our update on resort tax expenditures and revenues. And Chris, I believe you have those up to share,
Yes,
almost
No, I know.
pending.
okay.
Oh, there's Tom. He's getting.
I'm online. Apologize. I have
Okay.
a meeting in billing, so I will be remote for the meeting today, and I might have to leave a little bit early. So
Okay.
Tom, I've got the expenditures up on the screen, I believe.
all right. Just step back and just did you guys get a roll call, and then we need to approve minutes first?
Yep, we did both of those just now.
All right. Awesome. Great. Super. Thank you. And then, do you have a quorum there without me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Super.
Everybody,
So-
we miss you.
Sorry, my fire job is taking me away today. So, all right. So, the budget and the expenditures things have not been updated from the last meeting. I did not receive updated income expense stuff from Lonnie, but I will share with you unless you can do it off the city website. We've got the income did come in for the second quarter, and it was a little bit interesting in that we saw restaurant. Yeah, if you want to bring that up, it'd be great. We saw restaurant and was actually up a little bit. Restaurant and bar income was up a little bit, or collections was up a little bit, and then, but not shockingly, short-term rental and hotel motel were down significantly. So what we saw was a reduction, total reduction in what was collected during that time period, about 16%. Now, the key thing here is that that's how it's reported to the city, and so sometimes these numbers will change. So what will happen is as there may be some people who are late, and as they bring, as they come in and collect, then we will see those numbers come up a little bit. From a business perspective, I was a little surprised on the amount of reduction in hotel motel, and I'm just pontificating that potentially there was one or two that maybe didn't get their payments in on time, but we definitely saw with the mountain down, we saw a reduction in both short-term rental and hotel motel. But I think as a community, what we reported is that for the most part, the nice weather resulted in people coming up from Billings, Cody. We saw a lot more day travelers, and so then we saw those restaurant and bar numbers hold pretty steady. Anybody have any questions on that? Yeah, that report's not showing it.
This is
Yeah.
not what we're.
No, and I don't see it posted on there, Tom. I see the latest one.
There's another place that they posted here. I will let me share my screen with you quickly. And I've got a screenshot of it.
I'll make you a co-host. Hang on.
Okay.
Maybe.
Will that be available online?
It is online on the city website. Yeah. Why is this not working?
Not where I was looking though, apparently. In the resort tax page under budget.
Where I was.
Why would you look there?
Yeah.
It's quarterly collections. Oh, there. Got it.
Sorry, took me a hot minute.
It's okay.
Budget review. There we go.
All right. So here is the report off the city website. And you can see that last year, 24-25, total collections was 336,611, and this year was 281,305. So about a 16% reduction there. You know, I think you can see though that you know, and we talk about these quarters differently, but the third quarter, which is you know, the July quarter, we actually were up, but we were down a little bit the last two quarters. So we'll see how the year ends up, but I don't think we're going to see a significant reduction in total resort tax, but we probably will see a little bit of a reduction in total resort tax for the fiscal year. Now, I just want to make just kind of a reminder that we talk about collections sometimes differently and in different ways. And there's two ways that we collect money. So this report shows the money that the business is collected and when the business collects it. But we also, in our actual financial reports, we talk about when the cash comes into the city. So for this last quarter where you're seeing nothing, that cash actually that money doesn't come into the city or get recorded by the city until July. So that's actually in the next fiscal year. So you'll see when you look back to the last quarter of the fiscal year, you see that we were actually up from 456 to 485. So that's actually the cash that comes in. And so it does get a little bit confusing sometimes, but there's two different reports. Essentially, one reports how much money the businesses collect and when the business collects it. The second report is that we look at in some of our reports is when the city collects the money, and that's based on the actual income to the city. Does that make sense?
Yep. Looks like retail's down a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, retail was down significantly as well. All right. Any questions there? Thoughts? All right. If you want to bring up that other budget report, I will stop sharing my screen.
Yes. Hold.
And then,
Do you want to make me a,
You're not co-hosting with?
not again, not
Okay,
anymore?
okay.
Because I'm budget now instead of budget.
Okay. Now you go.
so that the budget form that we received, you know, that we reviewed last meeting, hasn't changed significantly. We made some updates to it based on the information. I talked to the mayor, and he asked that we have after our next meeting that we submit a budget to him. Just a process reminder is that, you know, we're an advisory board, so we don't make a budget. We recommend a budget to the mayor. The mayor reviews it, and the mayor submits a budget to the council. And then the city council approves a budget. So that's just a process piece. and he asked that we, after our next meeting, that we make a recommendation to him on the budget that he will submit to.
So our Gene will have to have it finalized and submitted to him. Is that correct?
Yes, that's exactly correct.
Okay.
Yep. So, and because I'm not in the room and I was not made aware of anybody who was going to present requests, is there anybody in the room who has a or wants to present a request?
Mike, do you have some?
I'm not sure what's all on there. Is that,
Can you go to the 26, 27 budget tab?
26,
20, that one right there,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And go down to the,
okay, so what?
right there.
above the line?
No, down below that.
Yeah, the below the line. Yep. There you go.
Line. AI picked up on that.
So.
The EDA sidewalk.
So
that's
keep-
carried forward.
Keep going down
Okay.
and then that'll show you Mike's new stuff too. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so EDA carries forward?
Yeah, for sure. 'Cause
Okay.
we're- Scroll back up.
Right,
Right.
PDA sidewalk?
I don't know what the EDA, well, the EDA sidewalks actually streets. That's
Yeah.
what it's supposed to be for. Pride Park improvements, I think today. Clear sidewalk, yes. Asphalt fund, standard. Keep scrolling down, please. Parks. Pickup. I think that looks pretty good from what I had last time.
Okay.
And I think depending on collections, we're, over budget currently. One question for you, I think we already got that out of there, the loader. Because you said you got that in.
Yeah, and that, I think there'll be, whatever I said last time, close to 20,000, I think, going back that we didn't spend out of the budget at 120 ballpark. So little chunk of change coming back on that one.
Okay.
Did we have a number for the O'Neill Trail? I can't remember if there was an amount.
No, we're
No.
we're not.
Not there yet.
Okay.
We-
What are the
All right.
accessible parking?
That was, I think that was part of the, what?
That was part of the Beartooth Trails request.
Where's that?
At the bottom.
I mean, where these parking spaces?
Coal miners, not coal miners. Rotary Park
Oh,
And I
okay.
think,
was to
I think
have
there were-
accessible parking spaces in Rotary Park so that there could be, someone could park and then get to an accessible bench that would be in the park.
That was one of the bucks.
Dog park too, wasn't it?
how do we find?
Why do I not remember that?
This is on the resource. This is our working document. I don't know that it's online.
It was, the hard copy was online from the last meeting, but this one, if there's updates to this one, it's not online yet, no.
Yeah, and we'll post it after this meeting.
What part of your website is it? They're not finding it.
I would just ask her, like, if we're gonna add things that are gonna be through my department, like parking spots in the parks,
Yeah.
I need to at least know about them before we put.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Just to
And-
make
and
sure
Mike,
we
that-
have-
yeah,
also to
we'll
make-
confirm, Mike, we'll confirm with you before we put this into a budget submittal document to the mayor. Yeah,
Yeah, I
those
just-
were just notes from the last meeting is all.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm learning a lot. I'm glad I came
Do you want to navigate to where that lives?
Um,
I can tell you how to get there. You go to the city webpage.
oh, sure. Resort tax
Yeah.
page?
So if you go to the main,
You guys watching?
you guys paying attention?
Yeah,
All right.
stand by. Let me get to the website. Okay.
So
I'm there.
under departments,
Yeah.
you can go to navigate to resort tax under admin services, and that's where I'm right now.
Okay.
And then take
And
it
then
away.
if you scroll down to the red buttons, that bottom right one that says Red Lodge survey results. Yep.
Yeah.
And then further down, there's resort tax budget review. And that has what was presented, at least on the 29th.
Yeah, the April 29th meeting.
Yeah.
So that'll get updated.
Congress, what was the selection just before this?
Uh,
Survey results?
Survey
Survey
results.
results.
Here, I'll go back. So right here.
That's where it currently was. It was part of that whole presentation, so that's where it got stuck.
Okay, got it.
Going forward, we should probably
Thank you,
put it under the main supporting documents, maybe.
And changes have been made to those documents since the 29th, because I'm seeing the ice rink being 11% in the last images that were presented there, and it was 12% from the 29th.
Yeah, the one we just were showing, yeah.
Changes have been
Yep,
made.
that's what we're just discussing now,
Okay.
is just the, yeah.
There's been additions and changes.
And there'll be more, because right now we're over budget.
It's an evolving document.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Sure.
Any other questions there?
Yeah, I have a question. Hi, my name is Renee Tafoya, and I'm a property owner here in the county, and I'm just curious, when you're making these budgetary requests, where is the public input part of it? I mean, do we come to these meetings and listen to you and say, where did you come up with this number, or how does that work?
So Renee, I'll answer that question. So there's two things. So we'll have, at the end of this meeting, we have public input where you can make a comment. We tend to be a little bit more open. So if you've got something you want to bring, we generally have been able to, for those who have participated in these meetings, realize that, we haven't had to be overly formal with public comment. So we do that. But ultimately, if you want to make a public comment, the public comment that would affect the budget would be made at the city council meeting where they are making the decision. So, again, we're an advisory board, so we take the input that we get from you, from people around the community, generally what we think, and we make a recommendation in this meeting to the, like I was saying earlier, to the mayor, and the mayor will put together a budget, and he can take our input or not take our input, because we're just an advisory committee, and then he proposes a budget to the council, and then the council has to vote on that.
Okay, thank you.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
Say, Tom, Steve Smith, could you go over what the process is for holding over previous year budget items?
Yeah, we have always, we hold over previous budget items. Those generally, once they're approved by the council, the time to spend them is until the project is done, not necessarily, once it's been budgeted, those projects start doing work. For example, we've got a lot of examples of this. Pride Park is a good example. We budgeted for that last year. It has not been completed, but Mike has been working on the completion of that project. And so the money is committed. So the money in those holdover projects is committed, and will stay in the budget until they're expended.
But Tom, they do not affect the following year's budgetary allocation.
No, because that money was actually committed out of the first budget. So again, another example was in this year's budget, we paid for a vacuum truck that was 450,000,
500.
something, 500,000. But that again was budgeted years before. We talked about it, contemplated it, budgeted it, and then Mike ordered. We approved the budget. Mike ordered it. It took more than a year to arrive, so we don't uncommit that money once it's committed. And that, again, this is remember, we're an advisory board, but generally that's how most municipal budgeting works. You once you make a commitment into it, you're kind of bought in. You have to stay with that commitment to finish that project.
Right, you don't create any limits on the amount of holdovers there might be for a given year's budget, it's just
No.
whatever's held over
No.
is held
Yeah,
over.
council has approved that prior budget, so it's a line item. The only way it's canceled is if Mike says, we decided we don't need the back truck.
Even with that, when I got here, there was that 40,000 budgeted for the changing all the
The sign
street.
project.
Yeah,
And
wayfinding, yeah.
you guys actually
Oh, yeah, the
went
street.
through city council and said, we're not gonna do that anymore, and that's when that money
Yes.
changed purpose.
Yes.
I don't think it's solely up to me.
No, I'm just saying, the only way is if you had asked for something and council approved it, would be if you said, we don't need that anymore, and then it frees the
That would
money up.
have to go back to you
Yeah,
guys to
yeah.
officially.
Thank you.
Yeah, like the EDA money, we needed to have that commitment last year when we started the process. We just finally got the approval today to add those extra streets if that's gonna pay for it. So
Perfect, yes,
we, once it's committed, that's to stay.
yes. It's been approved by council, so it will stay.
Okay, do we have any more to talk about with the budget request?
Hey, Jeremy, I'm going to let you continue running the meeting. I'm probably going to go. But just before I do, I just want to talk a little bit about that, about the survey presentation to the council. I didn't get a date from the mayor on exactly when he wants us to make that presentation, but essentially we'll do the same presentation we did at the Resort Tax Committee meeting last month. And we'll just do it to the council with the, we'll update all the data in terms of expenses and things, and we'll build we typically do a, it'll be similar to the presentations we've done in the past.
Yep, sounds good.
Is that online as well, the survey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can guide you there.
That was back in that
Same place.
Yeah.
Survey results?
Yep.
And then all the raw comments are there.
Yep.
Everything's on there.
So then
All right,
just
I'm
scroll down.
gonna pop off. Thanks, everyone.
All right,
Thanks, Tom.
All right, do we have anything to discuss on the resort tax presentation to council?
I took some notes based on some of the comments we had last week. I'll forward them to this group just because, just so that we're prepared with some of the questions that we got. So, because by the time we present it to council, we might be like, wait, that was 2 months ago. So,
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be great.
I think, I don't know if we're ready to do it next week, but I would think we'd be
Yeah.
able to do it like in the following one, probably. And unless you want to have another meeting before we present. So it would be the June.
I guess it just means who's going to present? And I would say either Jeremy or Tom.
Well,
As I nominate people.
I know.
Not me.
I know. So it would be the June 9th meeting, if you guys are,
I think,
and I'll verify that works.
I think we should shoot for that while it's still relevant.
Yeah, I don't think we're ready, like I say, for the 26th of May, but June 9th, we should be good. Okay.
Well, if
Adding it to the calendar.
we don't have more to discuss on that, comes to public comment, which have been, you know,
Ongoing.
yeah, ongoing, first come, first served. Yes.
Jeremy and all, thanks again for serving. It's a lot of stuff to digest and process and we throw out back at us. I have some questions, and I just want to put this current budget and proposals in context. Is there a place where I can find the language of the proposal that the voters voted on in 2020, when we dramatically changed the resort tax? Is that
The actual
something we
budget
can find or
language,
you could put on there?
It's there under the resort tax as well.
Okay.
supporting document somewhere.
Yeah,
As long as
it
that's
is.
the answer,
It's,
I'll go first. And secondly, approximately how much resort tax is generated every year? And I know it fluctuates, but
Last year it was 1.9 million,
1.9, so a couple.
but that also included the 1% for the stormwater.
Does
so-
that include that 1%?
Yes, yes, that's
So-
for stormwater street sidewalk, for the whole stormwater project, yes.
Okay, so we can take that out of there, all right.
Yeah, 25% is that.
3% of 1.9. Right?
You said
Or no,
1% and
or 3/4.
75% of 1.9, yep, yes,
That's
yes.
what I'm trying to get
And
at.
just continuing this line of questioning, I presume we still have debt for water and sewer. Not just getting away from stormwater, but and roads and that kind of thing. But is there a reason why we're not paying the debts off a little early with our resort tax?
I-
I think with the pool, the one, we've got a really good interest rate.
Yeah.
That's,
And
we,
it makes money to have the money invested rather than pay the loan off.
Inflation's been higher than the interest rate, so.
yeah,
Okay, so we aren't paying off debt, that was,
Well, we are paying off debt
Yeah.
with it, like $250,000 for water and sewer and $100,000 for the pool is all bond payments. Debt
So we're
payment.
just making the payment,
Right, but we don't,
paying them off.
yeah, but the interest rates are low enough where we would rather pay cash for something else like we did with the vac truck than get a loan for it. Because the interest rates are lower on what we already have, and they're higher now, so it's better
yeah, but I
to,
do understand that, since
Yeah.
I was on the council several
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
and Mayor. So I understand that, I'm just trying to put this in context about what is our debt compared to what we are using for other purposes. And the revenue, you answered that the revenue has been rolled over once it's committed. So my question is, the $375,000 for the ice rink in particular, has that been a rollover from last budget?
no, the 400,000 was the rollover.
So we already
We have not committed, the 375,000 is on the wish list. And I don't know.
Committed 400,000.
We have, for ice rink improvements, and it may, and we have to wait for all of the studies and the budget to come through to see exactly how that will be used, whether it's to make improvements to Lions Park by leveling out the bowl, or if it's just gonna be the base as a grant match for the project. But
And the
basically,
location will matter too.
yeah,
Okay, so
yes,
400,
exactly.
400 committed, and you have another 375 in this budget.
This wish list item, all those items were things that have been requested.
$775,000.
Right, but that doesn't mean that the Resort Tax Board has approved, people are coming to us and saying, we want this, we want that. Just like the new stuff at the bottom was, Nick came from Beartooth Trails last time, and that's their wish list of resort tax. It doesn't mean that everything up there is going to be actually on the recommendations to the mayor,
Or the amount.
or the amount, right? Because,
You're over budget now.
right, exactly, so. So we're, at that point, then the mayor and, we'll make recommendations, but the mayor is gonna look at that and go, okay, these are more, Public Works is probably at the top of the list of things that will happen, we're not gonna, and the police department, wants a study done that we said no to last year, that we did say we would make sure is in the budget, and then the tennis courts have asked for $200,000 to complete their project. So there's some things out there that we've kind of, already said, we're gonna try.
And I understand the police project would involve about 300,000
No, it's 50,000 right there. It's
for study,
it's the study, yeah.
but the whole project was,
No, we don't know how much the project's gonna be.
okay, I guess.
That's what the 50,000 is for, is to do the study. Mhm.
So I'm just gonna suggest, because of some thoughts that have been thrown out regarding the use of these resort tax funds, that in the language that you guys have provided, on the new ordinance regarding expenditure of resort tax, it includes streets and sidewalks. And I just want to bring up a suggestion that you consider that sidewalks are part of the public right of way. And I guess where I'm going with that is that to put the burden on repairing sidewalks on a lot owner that doesn't own the sidewalk and doesn't use it exclusively because it's a public sidewalk, I would like the resort tax to be used for those kind of things that serve more people and serve the public, and don't take a 10,000 buy-in from a property owner who doesn't get exclusive use of it. So those are the kind of things we could be putting resort tax towards, which I think, and I was preceded on the council by Renee Sequoia when this whole resort tax thing started. And to be honest, it was earmarked for, to be honest about it, it was earmarked for streets, water, sewer. Parks wasn't part of the discussion at that time. And in 2020, when this was changed, I guess we didn't anticipate that a huge chunk of this would go to one part of a new part of the budget, and that to the expense of other things. And maybe everything else is covered because we've got inexpensive debt service. But I think that's what brought our concerns up, that suddenly one project that's a niche project for a certain group and that will tremendously affect a very significant public park in our town, suddenly has huge chunk, not just 1 year, 2 years in a row. And I will follow up at the Parks Board meeting. I just came back from Lewistown. I had a good talk with the people there. I saw it there. This is a major project. And in Lewistown, the city does not contribute 1 cent, not 1 cent. It's all foundation that put it together. City provided the property. There was no resort tax, and there is still none. They handed out to a vote to the public, and every property owner in the high school district pays $35 a year for that. That's how it's paid, by a public vote, not by a recommendation through the head of this committee that his favorite project gets a huge chunk of resort tax that serves a very niche thing and leaves our park in cement the rest of the year. I would like you guys, as resort tax trustees, to consider that there are better ways to spend this kind of money than.
Are you just specifically talking about the ice rink? Or is it the tennis courts and the Pride Park and like any kind of
Is that
park?
375 all of the parks or just the ice rink? I thought I read.
Tennis courts are 200,000. We have 100,000 going to park regular, just park improvements and stuff, and then we have Pride Park improvements at 82,000. So.
375 goes to tennis and ice.
Those two.
Tennis and ice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And 82,000 goes to Pride Park, and 100,000 goes to parks.
Much as we love our parks, we hope that we can preserve our neighborhood parks. It's a lot of money. A lot of the resort tax money is going towards really an amenity, and
I just ask that you revisit that. When we have other things, like you're putting the burden on a private property owner to replace a sidewalk in front of them.
You
And we
want
should
to
be doing that as a public.
explain the sidewalk, how you did to me?
Okay, sure, I can explain a little bit, about the sidewalks. The ordinance was passed by city council long before I was on city council that put the burden of, sidewalk maintenance and shoveling, no, just a second, shoveling on the property tax owner. That's their responsibility. And, it hasn't been kept up, and Mike came up with this brilliant idea of starting this 50-50 sidewalk program as an incentive to try to get people to replace their deteriorated sidewalks.
Not theirs,
No,
public.
no, okay, well, just a second, let me finish. The reason why we don't use resort tax just straight out to start redoing sidewalks is it's not scalable. Who gets theirs first? The cost of redoing all the sidewalks in Red Lodge that need to be done would eat, and the same with the streets,
So
would
we do
complete.
need a new ice skating rink.
Well, no, just let me finish, Betsy,
Okay,
thank
this
you.
is what you
No,
guys
no,
are
Betsy,
proposing.
please, I'm talking. We do not have enough resort tax to make that happen for everybody in town. There's no way to pick who gets that first and who doesn't.
You
Well-
do that with streets. You do that with pipes.
We, not with the sidewalks. The sidewalks have been, by ordinance, council would have to say, we will take back that.
Exactly.
And,
That's
but
what I'm
I don't know
suggesting.
that,
You as a council member can do that.
we can do that, but do we want to? I
You
mean,
don't
as
want-
far as our budget goes,
I'd
there,
rather put it in
I'm not saying I'd rather put it into an ice rink. I am saying that
your budget.
we have our budget of other things that are very important to this town, including our debt relief, for, paying off our water and sewer debt we have. We are spending $100,000 in a bond payment for the city pool, which is also a park amenity. We pay, $150,000 to run the pool every year for 2 months. So, we have, and that was the number one priority the last time we did the survey when people approved it, is they wanted a new pool. And they also wanted our parks to be taken care of, because back then, we could only do capital projects, we could not maintain what we had. So we could build a brand new moose trails, but we could not fix it with resort tax money. So everything was going
understand.
downhill.
I'm just asking for priorities to be.
And I understand that, it's just, I don't, and that's a conversation to have, but, I don't know that, sidewalks are at the top of everyone's list all the time. I mean,
Well, according to the survey, they were the top of everyone's list. Over,
streets,
it said streets and sidewalks.
mhm.
So,
They're part of the street.
and the over 500 results from the survey, which is the most you guys have ever had,
Mhm. No, and,
indicates that 69% of the community wants streets and sidewalks. With that said, we've been going around taking pictures of sidewalks in all the neighborhoods. And I actually have, just from right here,
You started.
mhm, I know. No,
Right.
and what we're doing though is, we are applying for a street action plan with the Safe Streets program, which is a federal program. If we get that, they will make an action plan, and then we can apply for federal grant money to fix the sidewalks, to fix our streets, to make it safe for pedestrians. And then we would use the resort tax as a match. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I would rather, to make our resort tax money go farther, whenever we do a big capital project like that, we try to use it as a match and not have it pay for the whole thing. So that is how council is trying to work on fixing
I understand.
so it's not just gonna be like,
And just so you guys know, I'm Seth Decker, 601 South White. I actually wanted to talk about the survey results. I thought it was great, 520 some
Yeah.
results.
great result.
Streets and sidewalks at 69%. The next closest was at 62%. The one key thing is those pictures are just from between 9th and 10th on Plath. You can go to any neighborhood in Red Lodge.
Oh, I know.
It yields the same result.
Yep.
The thing is, and I commend the city on the $50,000 sidewalk match. I actually have an estimate that I've turned into the city for the match. That estimate was to cover 375 square feet of sidewalk replacement in the Hybug for $9,000. So that $50,000 is gonna help a handful of people. It's gonna take 3,000 years for all these sidewalks to get replaced with that. So,
Well, the 50,000 was a start, and we will absolutely, I mean, it was just this kind of the seed money to see how it'd go over.
yep,
And we just passed it, so July 1st, we're hoping to get it refunded. And depending on, if we use up all that 50,000, you know, Mike may come to us and say, hey, I want to increase that budget because we want, where people want to do it.
and I agree, and I think it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not putting that down at all.
Yeah.
But I do see sidewalks as a huge importance to where $50,000 in sidewalk replacement is pennies on the dollar when you're looking at $750,000 in ice rink.
Mike,
The first,
Jeremy's running.
before we can even spend resort tax money on sidewalks, we need to change the ordinance.
And that's where we should focus
Okay,
on.
and that's the
You can
city
recommend.
council meeting.
Yeah, well, and can I quickly say something to the ordinance thing? This keeps getting brought up over and over and over and over. That ordinance was instituted from looking at things in the 1980s, probably long before you got here, long before I got here. Things were on hard times. People didn't have money to go out and replace their sidewalks, but they still passed that ordinance nonetheless. And so, you know, over the years, the city has done things to elevations of city streets that to help out snow plowing, but also that impact the sidewalks all over town. So the snow melt goes onto these old 1920 sidewalks, there's freeze and thaw, there's damage, and to put the burden totally on all the property owners is ridiculous. So there needs to be a better program that should have been instituted a long time ago, long before this city council, and long before this administration, to phase in. It doesn't have to be all done at one time, the entire city, but prioritize where the worst sidewalks are at, get them fixed. Get a program in place, do more than $50,000 on a sort of elective basis, and really start pumping money into that. Instead of an ice rink, you know, at $375,000 additional dollars for this thing, how many sidewalks could be done for that amount of money? A lot.
Well,
Okay?
so this is $4,500 if we get the match, right?
Mhm.
There's three issues really, low-income low-income families and they just they can't afford that $4,500 even on the match. And then you have the other issue, the city didn't set up any guidelines for this work to be done. So you can use any contractor,
No, that's be a licensed contractor.
a licensed contractor, but even Dave said in the city council meeting that it could be anybody, any contractor that's licensed, which you could have.
It has to be approved by Mike.
Okay, but you're gonna have grade issues, you're gonna have core issues.
We're going out, I haven't seen your application yet.
It's not under my name,
Even productivity,
it's under Gretchen's name.
you're not gonna have a
I haven't
continuous.
seen.
It came from John.
But, I mean, just so everybody knows, like, I went out and got 2 applications I've looked at, and I go out and I shoot them all for elevation with a survey grade GPS, and we're setting the elevations. The contractors have to be licensed in the city of Red Lodge, licensed with the state, have to have insurance. I don't know what more we can do.
Right, without changing the ordinance.
Well, no, but I mean, to not be putting ourselves in liability for excluding other contractors. So we're getting qualified people there. We're going out and I'm making suggestions on where the grade should be for what's happened with the boulevard strips, what's happened with the yards over the years as they got higher. The ones at Roosevelt we were working on today, we actually stripped that boulevard off to address the grade issues. So a lot of your concerns, I feel, are being addressed in that regard.
And, you know, I guess we'll see. I know the majority of those applications have come from the Hybug.
What's the name under?
It's Gretchen Hart.
I haven't seen that one out there.
John Collier is bringing it by.
Oh, I got one with John Kohler.
So
Yeah.
there's like 4 of them in that neighborhood.
Okay, I've
And
got his,
so-
but he's out of town, right?
But with that said, I mean, even just them, right, if they get approved, there goes the entire $50,000, right? So,
We're gonna do $100,000 worth of sidewalks with 50,000.
right,
I've got the roads, I've got 5 out there right now, and we're,
but just that
Probably
375 feet is $9,000.
yeah, it's $4,500,
Right.
10%.
Keep in mind, this is year one. You know, like, we're starting.
No, like I said, it's a good thing, but what I'm saying is 50,000 for sidewalks is pennies on the dollar to 750,000 for an ice rink and 200,000 for a tennis court.
It's priority grade.
You good?
Yeah. So I wanted to update you real quick on the tennis court project, because we're still listed in there.
Yep.
So, this is a resort tax topic. I got 5 copies.
I can look up.
Good, thank you.
So I think maybe we told you we contracted with Great West Engineering, which is the city's engineer, to do 3 tasks for us: site survey, and then prepare the plans, the specs for construction, and then also go through a bidding process and oversee that. So the site design is like 90% done. We're gonna approve the gate locations and a couple other things, and if Mike gets a chance to look at, we'll take his input, but I know he's busy.
I'll give it.
Okay, all right.
Got back to town, yes.
Okay, so that's on the engineering. Also, on the funding, so I think this is an example of trying to really match the resort tax funding that we're asking for. So we have between U.S. Tennis Association and Land and Water Conservation Fund, 300,000. We've got about not quite 250,000 in local donations so far. And the latest estimate has come in right around $1 million, which is a little more than we started out anticipating. But we have a strategy. We're working to raise the rest of the funds, and so we want to stay in the mix. We appreciate it. We're still in the mix. We've been working with the Parks and Tree Board Land Use Committee of the council. We haven't updated them real recently. And then, of course, the council, Dave anticipates 2 MOUs will be needed, one with the school district for the insurance and the maintenance, and then one with the tennis board to proceed with construction if and when the council deems that appropriate. So the public input on this to date, there's 2 concerns. One was with the vegetation at the site. So there's a nice clump of mature cottonwood there. Probably that can stay. Under the latest plan, we've asked them to try to preserve everything they can. And Jennifer Lyman has volunteered to do a landscape plan for us for the site. So I think we're working with the Tree and Park Board on that. And then the other thing was 2 people that I've been aware of have said that they feel the resort tax money should not be used for parks and recreation projects. And so that's a decision for the city council. You guys, with the recommendation or not, and then the city council. So we're not involved in that particular discussion.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, we're happy to answer. This is Abby Lott. She's also on the tennis board with me.
Thank you.
So if you have any questions, we can answer those. Otherwise, that's all we have.
Thanks for the update.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the
Hello?
information.
I don't know if you guys can hear me. This is Mary Fitzgerald, and I'm on Zoom.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hey, thanks.
Go ahead.
I was trying to figure out how best to butt in. So for those of you who don't know me, I had the privilege of sitting through the very first resort tax everything, including heated meetings in the summer, whether it was going to go on the ballot, what was going to be taxed, the committee, the stuff. It was a lot of fun over many years. And I'm happy and grateful to have you guys all carrying on that torch. And I kind of swore I'd never go to another meeting again, but here I am. And I have a couple things. I want to go back to what Betsy said, streets, curbs, gutters, drainage, sidewalks, those were some of the fundamental points of the initial resort tax. And the resort tax has enabled our city to do amazing things all across the board, and it's a good thing. A thing to keep in mind right now is our national economy is in the gutter right now. Gas prices, inflation, unemployment, things like this could put our resort tax, and we've gone through it before, the crash of 08, 09, down again in the teens. We've had some really tough years. And I think it's a wise idea to perhaps anticipate we may be seeing some impact in our tourism dollars and our local spending. It's not just tourists that fund our resort tax. It is also us. And through like the crash of 2008 and 2009, you know, our retiree community that had moved here, they stopped going out to eat. I had construction firms, they stopped building. They couldn't pay for insurance. They didn't have Christmas parties, you know, and all this stuff. So I think it's going to be a good idea to have maybe a slightly bearish look at what's going to be coming in the future and really prioritize the most important things. On this ice skating thing, that is a huge growing sport in Montana. We did not have anywhere near that interest in pond hockey, is what that patch hockey is called, and the leagues. Those people live and work in Montana and in our region. They travel, they're committed, and they're addicted, and they love their sport. So there's the side of it that we're serving a small niche community, but it's also something that can build a tourism base that might be a little bit more inflation protected, climate protected, like the ski area this year was a really hard time. So we need to look at these projects, not just on who they serve right here, but how they impact resort tax revenue. Are we investing in something that's going to bring more money later on? So that's my comment on that. I do think we are long overdue for a comprehensive capital improvements program that gets tied into the budgeting process so we can identify the needs in the community, whether we can meet them now or not. Coal Miners Park, way back when I was first on council in 1990 something, we had an offer from a private, very wealthy individual to comprehensively master plan that whole area. People on the council didn't want to do it. Looking back, I see how foolish that was, because Coal Miners Park could sit an ice rink. It could sit the tennis courts. It has lights. People don't like the lights, so whatever, but it's a great park. So having a comprehensive capital improvements program where we know exactly where our wishes are, like what you did with the survey, is going to build credibility for the spending for the city for a long, long time, and will help people know that the projects that we need are kind of out there. There's a big wish list. When are we going to do this? What's urgent? And we also need to remember that there is crisis funding that needs to come out of somewhere. And anything that's eligible for resort tax money is sort of in a crisis or slush fund for the city to be able to pull out money to take care of an emergency. And we have to recognize that. The main thing that I wanted to talk about tonight was ADA accessibility, which is crucial. There is funding. You know, a few years ago, we were really into this Safe Routes to School program to help do sidewalks. I doubt that program even exists anymore. It was federal. But I recently experienced a really sad and traumatic event at one of our local parks yesterday, where a person who was older and frail had a terrible fall, had to call the ambulance. This was up at the dog park. The woman ended up with a very severely broken femur, I think because she's frail. I have seen disabled people up at the dog park on crutches slip and fall. I've seen elderly people slip and fall. And I do believe there's not an ADA accessible bathroom. There is not an ADA accessible parking. And there is not a safe place for people. It could be me. I could twist my knee and be on crutches. It could be my neighbor who uses a wheelchair and crutches. It could be this gal who's always so careful, who fell. And thank God our ex-assistant fire chief, Tim, was there to render first aid until EMS got there. But I do believe, based on our aging society and the variety of people that use that park on a regular basis, there should be something put in to assist people who have any sort of mobility needs. I myself have been diagnosed with a vision problem. I had to sell my business. I'm going blind. And it's the same for me. You know, I have no depth perception. It's hard to see irregularities on the ground, things like that. And having a safe place for people to enjoy that park who have challenges. We all love our dogs. We all love the outside. I just want that to get on the books as something that needs to be considered. The end.
We do have it on the wish list a little bit.
The
So,
last items.
yep.
Just add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Nick
given the
came-
accident,
Nick Jackson,
given the
at our
accident
last-
that happened up there, knowing that it was preventable, and it's been on my mind for a bit as I see these people struggle often. There's the same, like a tight group of people go up every day around 4 o'clock. I call it happy hour with our dogs. There's maybe 12 to 15 people. But as I've watched people struggle, it's not like she slipped on the ice, you know. And this woman is very cautious. We help her get from one side of the park to the other, watching her, watching the other dogs. So it's definitely just something that, with the degree of injury where she is hospitalized right now, with a life-changing injury, I want it to be known, I guess. So thanks, you guys, for listening.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Heard. Anyone else?
One last comment.
Yes.
And I'll be brief.
Sure.
Again, I'm Renee Tafoya. I was on the city council for 2 terms in the early 1990s under Brian Rote. And I think it was our council that instituted the resort tax in the first place. And the reason for this, we held several community meetings to determine whether this was a good idea, what kinds of things should be taxed. It was quite a hullabaloo at the time to just have that, even that concept. But the governor at the time enabled resort taxes across Montana to happen in entry, you know, tourist communities like Red Lodge. The reason that the community decided to have a resort tax at all was for streets, sewers, water, sidewalks, infrastructure, maintenance, and expansion. Not for property tax relief.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So it's morphed over all these decades, and now you're getting more money, and you want to figure out what to do with it. I really would like to amplify the voices that have been expressed here already. Please bring your priorities back to the reason the resort tax was established in the first place, and try not to get distracted by bringing in more tourists. I don't think that's your job. I don't think that's the job of the resort tax. So that's my 2 cents. And thank you so much for everything you do. I know it's not fun.
Thank you, Renee.
So I really honor that you're volunteering to be on this committee.
Thanks, Renee. Thank you, Renee.
Anyone else?
Yes, this is Mary Decker. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
I just wanted to kind of bring up what Mary Fitzgerald said. So, you know, kind of about laying out a plan. So in other areas, so I have a friend who's on city council and a county attorney down in Laramie, Wyoming, and they were just voting on their penny tax. And so, but what they do is they have all of the ideas laid out and with how much they believe it will bring in and what those project costs are. And so it's the same as a resort tax, but as they're deciding to add that other penny, that penny tax, it says exactly where that money's going. And I feel like that's what we're missing, because I would say none of us are anti-ice rink. we're anti-ice rink with the current project. And I look at the tennis courts, and what they've done is commendable. Like, they've been raising the funds. They hired engineers independently. Like, they've gone out at this proactively, getting the community involved instead of, I mean, you don't see Red Lodge Ice except for Tom show up. I think as the resort tax chairman, him dodging out even on this meeting. And then also on the agenda for tonight, you guys said, you know, going over the resort tax survey results was one of the agenda items. And you went right to public comment. I feel like it's been skipped over on the last two meetings. And so,
Mary, could I, what was on the agenda was our presentation to the city council. We talked about the results last meeting, and then there was a discussion about when we were going to present to the council, which was June 9th. And I don't know if you were on the meeting when we talked about that earlier tonight.
I've listened to all of the meetings, and so I did hear that last one, but the part that was left out was how much was allotted to Red Lodge Ice. And so I do think it's important because that's such a big line item you guys have in there. And so I don't think you can skip over that when it's 400,000 1 year and 375. So I think there needs to be transparency, and I think the community needs to be involved like other places have done, where they've let the community decide on the projects that are important. They've already got costs, so that we're not going into this blindly because a small group decided they wanted an ice rink. And like I said, no one's against the ice rink, but take the tennis courts approach to it.
And
that's all I have.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. I just want to say that that's what we're waiting on now, is the surveys to be done and the budget to be presented. And the budget, when it is presented, I am 99% sure that it will include things such as grant funding like the tennis courts had. It'll be private donations, and then they'll have their ask of resort tax at the end of that. And I don't know what that looks like yet because we have not seen it. So that's my hope anyway, is that that's what it'll all have in there. So.
And just the general rule for all of these projects, they have to be allocated to be used as match funds.
So my question is, how did that happen last year, that 400,000 was held over for a project that wasn't even proposed to the community?
So the 400,000 was approved by council, and that was improvements to the ice rink because it's extremely unlevel. It gets 3 inches of ice on one side and 18 inches of water on the other because it doesn't freeze right. And so it also included leveling out the bowl area so that it was more accessible. It would level out the ice rink so that their ice would freeze better. But it that didn't happen because they got this grant. And so it's been kind of just held over now until we get these budgets and find out exactly where things are going.
And where or when was that ever presented to the community, that idea of leveling it out?
It was in the budget. I mean, it was in the city council budget. Not every project is actually always presented to the community. It was improvements to what was existing there. So it wasn't, we improved the tennis courts. We improved the tennis courts with pickleball people, and that was never presented to the public. So not everything always gets a big public presentation. So, I mean,
I do know that they were raising funds for the pickleball.
They were, yes, they were.
And so you guys may not have presented it, but it was definitely on social media. It was kind of all over the place. You saw it, that they were raising funds. And so I think that's where it is. And I think that I know that there needs to be a meeting similar to that of the Red Lodge Ice presentation to the community. I mean, and I was at that planning meeting, and I asked them specifically, who is the applicant? Because the city of Red Lodge seems like they're the applicant, because if they're having a meeting at the Elks for Red Lodge Ice, they're a group, and they kept telling me that it's Red Lodge Ice is the applicant. Well, Red Lodge Ice is one single user group, one nonprofit. And so the opposition has not been given an opportunity to even prove that we're not anti-ICE, we're just anti this plan. And so it's turned into an us versus them that never really existed. But we're, you know, I mean, I don't know any other way to say it, but I think resort tax needs to have a meeting at the Elks Lodge to present to the community, and it needs to be, you know, widely presented. You've done 2 for Red Lodge, you know, for this whole tourism grant, and then you did 1 just for Red Lodge Ice. Well, that's one user group. What about the rest of us?
So the ice rink is an improvement to a public park. It is not an exclusive use of the Red Lodge Ice. So I'll just say that.
When you build a building for a Zamboni, that is specific to Red Lodge Ice. The building for a Zamboni is specific to the ice rink.
It's for skaters.
The building's for skaters?
The facility is for skaters, just like the basketball court.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing with the change of use in city-owned land. All of this has been planned out over the course of 2 years with no public knowledge. And you guys are the ones that told us to do our research. We've done it. And it makes all of you look bad.
If I could just make a couple points, this is a major project. This isn't just 400,000. This is a $1.8 million
It's gonna be $5 million by the time it's done.
Well, then it won't happen unless they have a lot of donations. Oh my God.
Other groups, you're saying that we want to buy into this fervor about hockey. But Lewistown and Glasgow and Bozeman.
Mission Valley.
Lewistown is 3 times our size. And they did it on their own dime. They did not use one single city, and not even to maintain it. They do it on their own. If these people want to do this, and it, you know, we've never seen any numbers of how many more tourists it's going to bring in. We do know that it has a neighborhood impact on us with generators running for 24/7 for 4 months in a residential neighborhood. The one in, you haven't even seen the plans for this.
No, we're waiting for them.
To stop the pucks in this ice skating rink, you have to have 4-foot chain link fence. And in those chain link fences on the inside are advertisers that pay for the maintaining of this and operations of this huge, half the size of a football field. And you're going to have this fence on our neighborhood park that you can't even see in. And if you have grade level, you're going to have hockey pucks out in the street. I mean, you haven't even seen the entirety of this project and committed money for it. It's one thing to fill in one end of the depressed area.
Mm-hmm.
You fill it up to the street level, you're going to have hockey pucks in these folks' living room windows. So you're going to have a 4-foot fence. The project is bigger, and you need to know that before you commit our resort tax money to that. You need to see the whole project.
I think it was already been calculated. It's like 185 truckloads of dirt to bring that in there. So a 17,000 square foot concrete pad, that impacts everybody. That doesn't just impact Red Lodge Ice, that impacts everybody. And that 250-year picnic that you had there the other day, there was kids rolling down the hill, there was people sitting on the grass. That's not happening with 20,000 square feet of concrete. The other thing is, and hopefully from a city council standpoint, I know this isn't that, but I hope you guys are doing the research like we're doing, looking at Mission Valley. Looking, they have bought the land 2 years prior to them even going for the tourism grant. They say it's $5 million. It's the exact same size, exact same thing. Tom Coons has said they're not paying for it. The city's going to pay for it once it's built. We know what those cooling coils are going to cost. You guys compare it to the pool, but you charge to use the pool. There's no one's planning to charge to use the ice rink. So where is this money coming from?
So, go ahead, Jimmy. I'll let you talk first.
This is not a meeting about the ice rink.
That's fine.
It's a piece of the resort tax budget, and we appreciate the comments for sure.
But you're doling out the money. So that's
And
what
you're
we're
holding
doing.
on all the
The PAR,
and
so
councils
the-
and everything.
You're mentioning a lot of good points.
Thank you.
Those will come up when we receive the PAR, and we really know what we're talking about.
The PAR.
Preliminary architectural review. So when that finally comes before this committee, before council, before Parks Board, that's when those conversations where we really know to the best that we can, that's when that research comes in and we can know what we're talking about.
Has that been hired yet?
I don't know.
I don't know if it's been hired, but it's,
Yeah, it's, Red Lodge Ice is paying for it. They're, Red Lodge Ice.
No. The
grant is.
the grant is paying.
Yeah,
for
the
it.
city, the city is not paying for it. Right, because the grant money was supposed to be used for the planning of it, and that's part of the planning. So you're right, yes. But
Lodge Ice has not put a dime into this. They're asking us to put money in.
they're not for the planning, no.
did you have a comment?
Yeah, but I have a question on process, and that is, you guys as a group, we all appreciate your time and things that you do. How is it determined, I'll use the rink, I'm sorry, but as an example. So in the 24-25 budget, there was the 400,000 allocation.
It was the 25-26 budget,
25-26,
yeah.
sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, and then 26-27, right now the proposal is an additional 375. How do you guys come up with that figure?
Right now, user groups are coming to us and saying, we'd like this, and we're just putting it on there. No decision has been made. We're just putting, like I say, this is a wish list, and everybody's putting on there what they want. And we're way over budget, so that's not gonna be the final budget, period.
Can we get on that wish list for the sidewalks? Can we get on that wish list?
Well, we have the sidewalks on there under,
So,
yeah. Is it 50? I don't know what.
It's only 50 for the matching.
Yeah, and that's from Mike, that's on Mike. Mike, the department heads are the ones that come, as for the public works part of it. And Mike asked for 50,000, again, for it.
It was, put at 50 to see if it would be used, and if it all gets used, it's already been talked about at the city council level that it would be increased to meet the demand. So it's all a big experiment right now.
How about the experiment portion on, sorry to keep bringing up the ice rink, it's a single issue for you guys, but, 400,000 and then 375. You guys are not experts on ice rinks, obviously.
No.
Why 400,000, then why 375?
Well, like I explained, the 400,000 was what, they thought it would cost to improve the existing ice rink.
I think that you need to, just sitting here, I wasn't part of it, I'm brand new to this, but what I'm hearing tonight is that the 400,000 has nothing to do with the big proposal and the grant money. It was budgeted prior to any of that. It was for improvements to the existing ice rink
system.
Yes.
And it has nothing to do with any matches or anything like that. It was to fix what we got.
And it can be used as a match.
It's being stirred in.
Yes.
Now it's on hold to say, okay, once we see the plans, it may be used in a different way than what it was
And
originally
the amount,
proposed for.
we're not sure what the amount.
And nobody knows what for.
We don't,
So
we're waiting on that.
Right.
It's,
So if you're gonna wait on it, why allocate 375 now? Why not wait till all the plans are done? Or is it just a placeholder for?
It's a yes, it was an ask, it was a placeholder. It may or may not happen.
It was an ask from.
Red Lodge Ice, it's a placeholder. I don't know, I didn't put it on there. I'm just, it was a placeholder.
And it was an ask that wasn't really well advertised when the asking was being done back in 2024. So, while it may be there, it may be approved by council, it was passed by council, that $400,000 allocation, without a lot of community input and without a lot of the interest that you're seeing right now, based on other needs that this community has for that amount of money. And I realize it's now allocated for the ice rink. The big question is, why would we be allocating another $375,000 toward this when we have such great needs throughout the city, infrastructure-wise?
And I'll just say, I think that's fair for us to consider when we put our final recommendations before the council, which we'll work on next week, or next month.
Yeah, next month, yeah.
I'm Rebecca Hardy, and I love Red Lodge Ice. I love the way it has been, and it definitely needs to be improved. The bowl needs to be leveled out. However, I absolutely hate this plan financially in every possible way. As a taxpayer, I hate it. I hate that every time I go to a restaurant that that my resort tax dollars are being abused in a way that I didn't choose. And as a recipient of taxes, living in a community, I'm offended that they don't get spent the way that I would choose. And Chris Keys taught me how to skate. I had skating lessons. But it just seems like it's very disappointing that we've had such little control over what is happening with our own money. And it's just very disappointing.
Thanks, Vicki. Can I just say something too? Everybody's got an opinion of how money should be spent. So just keep that in mind. People were very loud and clear that they wanted improvements to streets and sidewalks, but they were also, like, right behind it, they want recreation. We are a recreation town, so it's, I really appreciate you all coming here tonight and saying what is on your mind. There's a lot of people who are pro parks and recreation opportunities too. So if you've read through that,
I don't think there's anybody here that's anti-park.
Excuse me, would you mind?
I'll wait till you're done.
Okay, if you've read through that whole report, I think it's also very loud and clear that people want recreation opportunities too, and they want money to go toward that.
Oh, I
So
agree.
just keep that in mind.
We're not saying that. I'm heartened with your clarification that originally this 400,000 was to improve the ice skating rink. It was not to buy into this huge project. It was, you had in mind to fill in and do those things, and 400,000 would probably do that. But for it to be, like you're suggesting, it's a match for a grant, that was not in the intent when you put that in last year, because the grant didn't even exist last year. And now it's morphed into matching a grant. So I would like you to consider leaving it in, it's already in, but use it to improve that park and not to match the grant. Because you're seeing a lot of feedback about this huge project going in our neighborhood.
I just have one quick comment on what you guys can do going forward. If you think sidewalks should be a public responsibility rather than a private individual responsibility, I think that's worth writing council about and changing that ordinance.
We will
That's one thing. Another is just to keep in mind the scale of what we're talking about. 400,000 doesn't cover one block of street to fully pave it and have it done.
You gotta start somewhere.
I understand.
Like water sewer.
I understand.
You don't do.
I'm just saying we could cut our entire parks budget and never ever finish our sidewalks.
So we don't do it?
Right, but what I'm saying is we have to balance those things. And so that's what we're talking about.
Is it true that the numbers that we had from last year and this year, the 400 and the 375, in each case is the largest single allocation or recommendation?
No. The vac truck cost $540,000 last year.
Oh,
And that might be the highest.
That was like 25% or so.
That's
Yeah.
not the resort tax though.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Because we were gonna, Mike wanted to, use water and sewer reserves and then some resort tax. And we opted instead to keep the water and sewer reserves because we had so many water and sewer projects coming up. And it was better to use that cash rather than have to finance as much as he was going to have to because of the increase in the interest rates. So we opted to pay 100% of that out of resort tax instead. So those are the type of things. And I want everyone to know, I am all for using resort tax, to help with streets and things like that, but I really want to focus on trying to find those grant opportunities so that we can use that resort tax as a match, so that we can make, so it's like 10% of the match or 20%, and then we use 80% of someone else's money, and then we can do 80% more of a project. Because Jeremy's right, it costs over $400,000 to do one block of streets. But if we can start getting this federal, it's like a safe street program type of thing. But if we can start accessing that as a grant, then we can use our resort tax for, just like we did with the EDA grant to redo all those streets in, where we did phase 1 of stormwater. And 25% of our resort tax is for stormwater, which also includes streets and sidewalks and gutters behind the stormwater project. So 25% of our resort tax, once that stormwater is done, will go to streets wherever there was stormwater that was put in. And our streets are in such horrible condition because we knew we had to replace the stormwater all over town.
Right.
So Bushnell refused to even repair the streets because he said, you're just throwing money away because we're going to dig them up. So in the meantime, it's 20 years later and our streets are a mess. So I mean, it's been kind of an ongoing issue,
Yeah, and we can't fix this overnight, Jeremy.
No.
I 100% agree with what you were saying. Kind of back to this ordinance thing and changing the ordinance. I mean, from a council standpoint, and I know we can't fix the streets or fix the sidewalks all over town overnight or in, 15, 20 years even. But if we were able to push for an ordinance change, could you then allocate almost like you do with streets and sewer projects and water projects where you're like, okay, the blocks between Platt and 9th and 10th are gonna be, they're budgeted for 2027. And then you could do the next section, as that money came in.
Just like you do for water and
And that's why I wanted to also give you guys those photos, is because you'll see in those photos, you'll have dilapidated sidewalk on both sides, and then there's a section that's been redone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what concerns us, is even though this money's going out, these sidewalks may not all be considered equal, when they're done.
they don't connect.
Well, and I agree, the utility of a sidewalk is in its connectivity, not in its individual package.
Yeah,
So-
that's right. So it can,
So, just trying to find that happy medium where it is hard to see when you look at those budget lines and be like, man, 50,000 for sidewalks and 750,000 for ice. And I know we're saying ice, but it could be anything, And when you look at that 1.9 million and you've got 350 for ice and 200,000 for tennis, which again, I think the ice rink's great. I skate on there too. But it seems like a lot when you're looking at the full resort tax budget, and that's kind of the point.
Well, when we look at our expenditures to date, you've got that pie, and really, it's hard to include stuff like the ice rink. It'll go up slightly if we were to spend the full 50 or whatever it ends up being. That'll increase it slightly, but really the mass amount that's going of resort tax is going to streets, sidewalks, sewer.
Yeah, water and sewer.
So,
The first 20 years of our resort tax, we buried underground for water and sewer.
Sure.
We absolutely did, and we're still paying that off with resort tax, all those projects that we did back then. I mean, I look at what we've been able to accomplish with the resort tax. I mean, there are towns that have 100-year-old water lines still, and they can't afford to fix them, and they don't have the resort tax to fall back on and make that happen. So, I mean, we're very, very lucky, and we're very thankful that we have this in our town. And, and we're able to have the pool that we have. That was, like I say, the number one request when we did our, before we renewed it, was the pool. And that's why people were like, yeah, we want stormwater and we want the pool. And they realized we had to renew the resort tax to get it. So, I mean, there's other towns, even like Miles City, that had to close their pool last summer. And it's over 100 degrees there all summer long, and those kids had no pool. So it's things like that, and I am a supporter of the ice rink. I don't know what that's going to look like, if it's just going to be improvements to the existing one, because we're a winter community. We need winter sports. We need things for people to do in the wintertime besides just sit inside, And so and it may just be improvements to what we have. We may not be able to afford what they're envisioning. We won't know until we get it. And we don't know where it's going to go, if it's going to go on top or if it's just going to be, there's a lot of questions. And, in the cross-country skiing, and ice skating, and, I mean, there's just sledding, you know, there's a lot of winter sports that a lot of people participate
Well,
in.
these are the things that bring in resort tax funding, and we're seeing it, you know, just our crappy year at the mountain. It
Yeah.
reduces revenue by a significant amount, by an amount probably similar to what we'd be spending on an ice rink.
Do you
Yeah.
think people are gonna skate when it's 72 degrees in November, 64 degrees in December? It's not even logical.
It would extend the season, it would, the argument I feel is valid that it would bring tourists more than it currently. But that aside, and I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, I just had a question about the
Yeah.
$400,000 that's already been allocated for flattening the bowl at Lion Park.
Well, it was improvements to the ice rink, and, yeah,
Okay,
so,
so
yeah.
if-
not super specific.
Right, no, but that was what was mentioned, is that they wanted to level it out
Okay,
and fill
so
in the bowl.
if the project ends up moving up near the airport, or if it ends up, if the giant, enormous project of the grant and all that stuff ends up being canceled or it doesn't work out, will that 400,000 still go to improve the ice rink area at Lions Park?
That will be to be determined.
Yeah, it may.
It may, yeah.
And those improvements would be the ice, the concrete pad?
No,
Just
leveling.
Just the leveling.
the ground.
Just leveling, yes.
Does that include bringing it all up to street level necessarily, or just using it
As far as I know, it's level.
just level?
I don't know, I heard it was, I honestly don't know. You know, I would think for 400,000, it's probably adding a bunch of dirt to it to level it out. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
So it's a lot of dirt.
400,000 goes to,
Can I raise my hand?
but it's been, I don't know, you guys can just change where it goes after you've already determined where it goes?
Well, it just says it,
Reallocated, right?
yeah, it can be reallocated. I'm sorry, someone had a comment online? I'm sorry. We need to finish this meeting up at 7. Go ahead, online.
I think there's actually a couple of us that want to speak. This is Becky Larson. And I find it a little bit ironic. I feel like there's a part of this meeting right now where you're trying to talk about how you're not going to put concrete out here on the Lions Park. I find it ironic that we can talk about, you know, how expensive it is going to be to work on the sidewalks that we have in this city. And yet you're planning on putting a great big huge cement or concrete slab out there, of which the city in the long run is going to have to take care of, or should I say us, as we pay our taxes. So I find it ironic that you're talking about this basically, issue with how much the cost of fixing sidewalks is and how much that's going to just really be hard on the city. And yet you're thinking of putting a great big huge slab of concrete in the middle of a green park, of which you guys are going to have to keep up just like you keep up your sidewalks. That's a bit ironic to me. The other piece of it is I want you guys to remember that, seriously, Lions Park is like New York's Central Park. It is the biggest, greenest space that we have right now. Already this spring, my husband and I have sat here and watched the probably 5 or 6 school buses of kids from different communities that have come to that park specifically, from Columbus, from Park City, from Cody, Wyoming, to come here and play on this grass, to spend time on this grass of which you're planning on getting rid of. And I find it ironic that you're talking about the expense of your sidewalks and the concrete that is going to be out there, that it's going to cost you guys to take care of, or you're going to tell us we can't be on it because you don't want us to ruin it because you don't want to pay for it. And I feel like the other piece of the last piece that I want to bring up is the pool, the tennis courts, Arts Guild. These groups have all had to go out and find their own matching funds to get these things done for the tourism grant or for any other grant that they have wanted, or the pool itself to be built. And yet the ice rink is getting all the money from the city. Everything that they're going to want, they're not having to apply for anything. I haven't heard that they have applied for matching grants. The Art Guild applied for matching grants. I heard that. And yet the ice people, I don't believe they've done any of that. All of this money is coming out of the city, of which none of us have been able to vote on. And it's just a little disheartening to hear that. in closing, I know you guys work really hard at this. I know you hear us constantly, and I'll say it, we're all nagging about it. But I just seriously think you need to think about what this city is. Yes, this is a tourism city. I will be the first one to admit it. But please remember that our summers are just important to people, and coming here and spending time here, hiking, biking, spending time in the parks as it is spending time spending time skiing, cross country skiing and everything else. We still, if you want to consider us to be a tourism town, you have to consider the summers and the winters as tourism, not just the winter. Because you guys make a lot of money in the summer with people coming in, hanging at the park, going to the 4th of July parks, or the 4th of July, going to, the rodeos and those kind of things. So you take that piece of grass and make it concrete, and people are not going to enjoy that. Central Park, which is basically what that is for Red Lodge.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thanks, Vicki.
Yep.
Anyone else online have any comments? We're trying to wrap up the meeting. And
Okay.
We're a little over.
This is Mary again, and I'm going to speak to a point I made. Our last capital improvements plan was done well over 20 years ago. And one of the priorities in that plan was that we maintain the public pool. As councils have shifted, resort tax boards have moved, etc., people forget we don't have a new capital improvements plan. And when
Mary,
there was
we just passed last year.
So
We
how
do
are
have a
all
new one.
these- I didn't get a survey. So when we did our last one, we surveyed the community.
Okay.
What their priorities were, and
It
and
was
so
Great West wrote it for us, so I'm not sure exactly what all.
yeah, I didn't
entailed.
see a survey. We sent out a survey for the one we did before, so the
Are
community members.
you talking about the parks plan or the capital or the public works capital plan?
A full city capital improvement plan.
We
But
did the
let me
public
just-
works
can-
one. We have not done
can
the
I-
parks plan yet.
Can I finish? So
Yes, I'm sorry.
we surveyed the community. We had a statistically significant survey response like you did with the resort tax, and that was a guiding document. And I do believe we need to have that again, and it needs to be intertwined into the budgeting process so that the community members who take the time to actually respond to these surveys, and you can still do it on council. It doesn't need to be segmented between public works. It doesn't need to be segmented. It just get the community opinion on some of these projects to help guide the decisions. And like I said, the pool, when the pool whole issue was coming up, there was no current capital improvements plan, and there was no reference to what the priorities that the city residents, most of us who've been here that long, had actually stated. So I think having the tools where people who choose to be involved can actually put their stuff there and be guiding documents will help everybody in the future. Nobody goes to enough meetings to speak their word, and we're seeing that right now. So that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, I just wanted to tell you, we did our capital improvement plan last year, but that's public works project specific. We do have on the wish list item here, money to do to update our comprehensive parks plan. And that, I believe, is what you're talking about, where they actually survey people on their wishes for the parks.
It was actually the last one was surveyed for everything. And you can find it. It goes back to streets, it goes back to sidewalks, it goes back to parks. It was comprehensive. And I think, you guys do a great job. I'm not criticizing anybody, but I think it's a valuable tool. I've looked at budgeting processes from a lot of communities, and those become the guiding documents. And it might be time to put a request in to the council to actually do a public survey on things, so it makes the decision making on sidewalks versus hockey rink versus this versus that you know, a guiding document to help, because everybody, the squeaky voice, you know, squeaky wheel, whatever they say. I just think it's time to renew that. And I actually still have a copy of the old one if you need it.
Okay, thanks, Mary.
Okay, thank you, Jody.
There's no other comments. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We do adjourn. Thank you.
Thanks.